Yeah, he could flip it right.
It's still there.
It's still there, so at least a half-inch rain.
I think we had a puddle in our road.
I tell you, it's good to be in the house of the Lord no matter what day of the week it is.
Yeah.
So thankful to be here, and I like to sing, so y'all bear with me. If you don't like to sing, fake it for me, okay? Page 356. 356. Redeemed, how I love to proclaim it. Redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Redeemed through His infinite mercy. His child and forever I am. Redeemed, redeemed. Redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Redeemed, redeemed. His child and forever. So happy in Jesus, no language my rapture can tell. I know that the light of His presence with me does continually dwell. Redeemed, redeemed, redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Redeemed, redeemed, His child and forever I think of my blessed Redeemer. I think of Him all the day long. I sing for I cannot be silent. His love is the theme of my song. Redeemed, redeemed, redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Redeemed, redeemed, His child and see in His beauty, the King in whose law I delight, who lovingly guardeth my footsteps and giveth me songs in the night. Redeemed, redeemed, redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Redeemed, redeemed, His child and forever. I'm so glad I'm redeemed. Redeemed means bought, for them that don't know. You've been bought with a price by Jesus Himself. And He loves you. And that's the thing I can't get over is He loves me. I hope I never get over that. Amen. All right, page 479. This is usually an invitational hymn, but it don't have to be. It's such a pretty song, and I feel like singing it. Softly and tenderly Jesus is calling, calling for you and for me. See on the portals He's waiting and watching, watching for you and for me. Come on, come on. Is calling, calling, oh sinner, come home. calling, calling, oh sinner, come home. Time now is fleeting, the moments are passing, passing from you and from me. Shadows are gathering, death's night is coming, coming for you and for me. Come home, come home. You are weary, come home. Earnestly, tenderly, Jesus is calling, calling, oh sinner, come home. Oh, for the wonderful love He has promised, promised for you and for me. Though we have sinned, He has mercy and pardon, pardon for you and for me. Come home, come home. You are weary, come home. Earnestly, tenderly, Jesus is calling, calling, oh sinners, come home. All right. How many have we done? Well, it don't matter. If we do too many, that's okay. Let's do 493. That'd be good enough. Good enough Bible study. I wrote down too many. We can't do all this. I mean, we can, but I've got a lot to cover. So, somebody said, Chad, go ahead and start a little early. We'll get out of here earlier. So, and we did too. We started almost 7 minutes early. So that's good. I'm not going to tell you who said that. Down at the cross where my Savior died, down where for cleansing from sin I cried, there to my heart was the blood applied. Glory to His name, glory to His name, glory to His name. There to my heart was the blood applied. Glory to His name. I am so wondrously saved from sin. Jesus so sweetly abides within. There at the cross where He took me in. Glory to His name. Glory to His name. Glory to His name. There to my heart was the blood applied. Glory to His name. Oh, precious fountain Amen.
Yes.
Did you listen to the song I told you about last week?
The one with Willie Nelson in it? Well, I didn't rush out and do it, that's right. No, I haven't. I will though. I kind of forgot about it, to be real honest with you. We got a busy week. Huh? Wow, you want to hear that now? Because I sure ain't got it ready.
I think it'll be easier than the other one.
Well, the other one wasn't hard. I just can't play. I mean, that's just how that works.
You need to work on it. You did
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
It was a good song.
Well, I'll work on it some more. Some of that's just, you know, I've only got so much ability, and a man's got to know his
Put it in
limitations.
your repertoire.
All right, we are in Genesis, and I'm going to do something just a little bit different.
Oh.
Normally, I try to finish a chapter, and if I don't, we'll cut it in half and finish it the next week.
Okay.
I don't think I have ever started in the middle of one and finished in the middle of the next one. I don't think I've ever done that.
Okay.
But there's a first time for everything. And woo! Woo! Right, okay. We're in Genesis, and we are in chapter 42. Is that right?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. We were in the middle of the chapter, and a
26.
little past the middle. And I'm not going to back up far, but just for context, we're going to start in verse 17. So for them who may have slept since then or forgotten or whatever, yeah, we're going to pick up there in 42 and 17. And we're going to go to the middle of the next chapter, and we'll take off in just a minute. But let me just catch us up. So Joseph is now reigning as second in command of all Egypt. Y'all know that. His brethren have run out of food. His father has sent them. I think it was pretty significant that he sent the boys and not servants, because for something that involves a lot of money and a lot of food, you want to send people you can trust. So you've got the 10 boys. Joseph is who knows where, and they don't know. And Benjamin stays home with Daddy. He's the youngest. He's probably 23 or 4 by this time. And so you've got the 10 boys, not counting Joseph or Benjamin. They come to Egypt. They encounter this second in command, who is Joseph, their brother, and they don't know that. He's dressed like an Egyptian. He's up there in power. He speaks Egyptian. Probably growing him a little facial hair, you know, probably got that Egyptian goatee going on or something. I don't know. But they don't recognize him. And they get there, and they're trying to buy food, and Joseph is personally overseeing all of this. He doesn't have to. He could delegate it down, but I think he was looking for this to happen. He knew if the famine was that bad in Egypt where they had food, it was going to be bad all around. So, looking for this day to come, he sees his brethren as they approach. And so he makes a point to speak through an interpreter, to hide who he is, and he deals with him. Now, he accuses them of being spies, and that's not an unheard of accusation. In that day, there was always somebody spying out the land, trying to take advantage of other people. That's been around since time began.
Still is.
That's right. It's still that way. People still want to take advantage of you, and they do. But anyway, so you've got you've got these boys here, and they're going to buy food, and they're accused of being spies. And Joseph's he says, "Well, prove to me you're not." And they said, "Well, we're family men. We brought our whole family. You know, all of us boys except for one we don't know what happened to. We think he's dead. Another one is home with Daddy, and then we got Daddy. And so we're all here but them." And they regret telling him that, because Joseph says, "Okay, you got another brother. I need to see him, so I know you're not lying to me." He tells them that he's going to have them all arrested while he studies on what to do, and he puts them in jail for 3 days. And so we come to this portion of the story in verse 17, and they've been in jail for 3 days. In fact, Genesis 42 and 17 says this: "He put them all together into ward 3 days. And Joseph said to them, the third day, This do and live, for I fear God." Now this is unusual, and I told you this last week. For in Egyptian, assuming, as far as I know he's Egyptian, for him to fear the God instead of being polytheistic like most Egyptians, to recognize there is one God and to say I fear him speaks volumes about his character, even though he's kind of been rough. He's treated them kind of rough. Well, he says to them, this is what we're going to do because I fear God. "If you be true men, let one of your brethren be bound in the house of your prison. Go ye, carry corn for the famine of your houses." I told you last week, I think the reason that he let them sit in there 3 days and think about it was so, number one, they could reflect on what they had done. They needed that time to stew a minute. My granddaddy used, first time I ever went to jail, my granddaddy said he's going to let me sit in there and cool my heels a minute. He did it on purpose. He could have bonded me out, but he wanted me to cool my heels. Sometimes people need to sit a minute and think. In fact, that's what's wrong in part with the world today, is it's spinning so fast. People run around like a chicken with their head cut off, and we don't slow down long enough to consider God and ourselves and where we are in this grand scheme of things. I know we're busy, I am too, but sometimes the best thing you can do, take a couple hours out of your day and just get still and quiet. Find a spot. Y'all know who Dr. W.A. Criswell was? Dr. W.A. Criswell was the pastor of First Baptist Church Dallas for a long time. He's dead now. They got a real good preacher over there now, Dr. Robert Jeffers. I like him a lot. But anyway, Dr. Criswell once said that he had an hour every morning he spent with the Lord. And he didn't monkey with that hour. It didn't matter what else was taking place. He gave his hour to the Lord first every day. He'd pray, he'd read his Bible, whatever he's going to do, he did in that hour. And one day he got to feeling guilty because he spent so much time doing other things, and that's all he gave the Lord was an hour a day. And he said, Lord, I know that I need to give you more time, but how can I? I'm already so busy, I don't have time. And just the Lord wouldn't leave him alone about it. Just wouldn't leave him alone about it. So this is what he wrote in his book that I've got in my office, and I'm paraphrasing. But he said, what I did was, the Lord just burdened me so bad about it, I finally just said, you know what? I'm going to give 2 hours. And his wife said, how are you going to do that? You're going to have to cut it out somewhere. You don't have 2 hours. He said, well, the Lord will work it out. I'm going to give the Lord 2 hours. So he gave the Lord 2 hours, and not only did the Lord allow for him to have time, it freed it. I can't explain how this worked, but he wound up with more time in his schedule. God just worked it out. I've always believed that about tithing. I've had people say, Brother Chad, I'd love to give to the Lord, but I can't afford to. Friend, you can't afford not to.
That's right.
And you ought to give from the gross, not the net. Somebody once said, well, why in the world would you do that? I only have to give out of what I receive. Why would I give after the net instead of gross? That I didn't get the gross. I only got the net. Here's the deal. I sound like Joe Biden. Here's the deal.
Oh,
sorry.
Okay.
Here's why. You never give God his money after you give to Uncle Sam. You never put Uncle Sam before God. So if you give off the net, you gave your taxes, you paid Uncle Sam first, you put him before God. You're supposed to give off the gross. You're supposed to give God off what he increased you. I can't help with the government to it. You give God first off what you gross. That's what you're supposed to do. Well, this isn't a message on tithing, but I have learned from experience. So when I thought I couldn't afford to put any more in the plate, God showed me that I can't afford not to. In fact, the more I put in, the more I'll give you an example. This has happened this week. This happened this week. I had already put in what I owed the Lord this week. I always give my tithe. At one point when I was younger, before I had all these kids, I was trying to raise it because 10% is the minimum. I want to give more than just the bare minimum to God. So I raised it up to 15%. And I'll tell you why I did it. There was a guy, he's famous now. I can't think of his name. It'll come to me later. But he was famous because he started giving 10%, then he gave 20, then he gave 30. And before the end of his life, he was giving 90 and living on 10. God made him so rich. He used to make these big earth-moving machines, excavator. What's his name? Somebody know what I'm talking about?
Laterno.
Is that who? Okay. I can't remember his name, but that's a famous story because this guy was giving 10%, and by the end of his life, he was giving 90, and God had blessed him so much he could live on the 10. So I told my wife, I said, I'm going to test this deal out, see how this works. I increased it to 15%, and I was able to do that for about 3 years. And then, I don't know, we just kept having kids, and I hated to do it, but we came back down to 10 for a
Blame it
while.
on the kids? Oh.
But, no, I feel guilty about that. I shouldn't have told y'all that, but I did. Anyway, I never got under the 10, but I did drop it back down at one point. But something I did just Sunday. Sunday, I had a 50 in my wallet, and I had 10, a 5, and some 1s. And I wanted to give something, even though I give bi-weekly, because they pay me bi-weekly. I give every other week. But it bothers me to see that plate go by and me not put something in it. So I wanted to put something in there, and I reached in my wallet. And I thought, well, I don't owe 50. But I've got it. And I just thought, I'll just throw it in there. You can't outgive God. So I did that. And then I got this card from a bunch of people who apparently loved me. I didn't even know. And God had given me money right back. And I didn't know that was coming. So the point is, you can't outgive God. You
Amen.
can't. And so How in the world did I get off on that? I was going somewhere entirely different, and I don't. We was talking about time.
Moon pies, I believe.
3 days in jail. That's how we got on this. Okay, let's get back on track. I apologize.
Here we go.
Leave the moon pie alone for now. Okay? We'll never get through this if we don't go. So,
Here we go.
3 days locked up. This 3 days gave them time to reflect, to think about, where they were in their relationship with God. And it also gave them an opportunity to see the way they'd be treated there. See, one of them's fixing to get left in there for a while. You would feel better about leaving a brother in jail if you knew he was in a real highfalutin jail. 3 squares a day, TV, phone, If you're in one of them really good federal jails, it's not so bad. It's like living at home on shutdown. It's kind of like locked down for COVID. I mean, they give you everything. It's a little too nice in some of these jails. People ain't learning a lesson. And that's a fact. But there's also jails like in third world countries that are more like dungeons, where all you get's a hole in the ground and maybe some water and some moldy bread. So with 3 days in this prison, they're able to see the conditions. And I'll tell you, I'd feel better about leaving. My granddaddy was fine with leaving me in there to cool my heels, because he knew that the jails today are a whole lot better run than what they used to be. So I said that to say this. Let's move. He leaves them in there for 3 days. He pulls them out and he says, look, if you be true men, let one of your brethren stay here locked up in your prison. The rest of you carry food for your houses. He knew their family was hungry. This ain't the time to teach them a lesson. It's time to feed the family. So he sends them home with the food, and he says, look, when you come back, and you will, when you run out of food, you'll be back, bring your youngest brother unto me, so shall your words be verified, and you shall not die. And they did so. So in other words, he turns them loose. He keeps one brother behind. For them that don't know, he keeps Simeon. And there's a reason for that. We talked about that last week, but I don't want to rehash that. We're going to go. He says, they said one to another, we are verily guilty concerning our brother, in that we saw the anguish of his soul when he besought us, and we would not hear. Therefore is this distress upon us. What they're saying amongst themselves is, we deserve this. Joseph begged us not to throw him in that hole. Then he begged us not to sell him. And he was screaming and hollering and begging and pleading. And what did we do? We threw him in a hole and went sat down and ate. Then we pulled him up just to sell him off. The whole time him begging forgiveness. The whole time him saying, I'm so sorry. You're my family. I love you. Please don't do this to me. And we ignored him. So those 3 days in jail did what he intended them to do. They thought these things over, and they realized this. Verse 21, they realized, they said, we're guilty. We deserve this. Verse 22, and Reuben answered them. There's always one who says, I told you. Well, Reuben's that guy. He says, did I spoke not unto you, saying, do not sin against the child? Then you would not hear. Therefore, behold, also his blood is required. So look, we got this, coming because of what we did. But I told you not to hurt that boy. I told you. You wouldn't listen to me. Now, verse 23, they knew not Joseph understood them. He spoke to them by interpreter. This whole time, Joseph's been talking to them through an interpreter, pretending he don't speak Hebrew. But he's heard every word. He knows what they're saying. And that reminds me, by the way, this is not what this is teaching us, but it does remind me, if it's the Lord calling, answer.
Yeah.
If it's not the Lord calling, we'll call him back. No, if you need to take that call, I understand. Because if my wife calls me knowing what I'm doing right now, I assume it's an emergency, I'm going to answer it too. So she better not. If she does, I'm going to answer it. Anyhow, I know there's emergencies sometimes. But he hears them. And this always reminds me of the fact God hears us even when other people don't. Have you ever said stuff you ought not say and nobody heard it? But you know God heard it. So this is just what that reminded me of. But see, they don't know they're being listened to. Hey, there's a whole lot of people lately being caught on hot mics saying things you're not supposed to say. There's another one today, a recording of a particular individual that he didn't know he'd done. So people are all the time getting caught saying stuff they shouldn't have said. It happens all the time. Well, that's what happens to them. They're talking about this and they don't know he can hear it. Verse 24. He turned himself about from them and wept, and returned to them again and communed with them, and took from them Simeon and bound him before their eyes. So after he hears, he knows this is bothering them. He has to go somewhere and cry, because it touches his heart that they're thinking of him all these many years later. It's been 20 years, y'all. It's been a little over 20 years since they've seen Joseph's face. And after 20 years, they've not forgotten him. In fact, after 3 days in jail, they're talking about him out loud. So this does a number on him, and you can understand that. So he runs off somewhere to cry where they don't see it, and he comes back and he talks to them. He takes Simeon and he arrests Simeon. I believe the reason he chooses Simeon is because Simeon was the second oldest. Simeon was a ringleader. Simeon was a murderer. He murdered the city of Shechem. He was just a wicked guy, and he was probably the one that needed it the most. They all had sin in their lives. But God has a way of bringing things back around. And Simeon needed to sit in jail for a while, okay? And so he does. Stop me if you need me to expound on anything, because I'm moving a little quickly. I covered some of this last week. Remember, if y'all have a question or a thought, just shoot your hand up. This is all open. It's not like Sunday mornings. I want you to talk if you got something to say. So anyway, he arrests them right in front of them. Verse 25. Joseph commanded to fill their sacks with corn, and to restore every man's money into his sack, and to give them provision for the way, and thus did he unto them. Now they came to buy corn, but he gives them more than that. He fills all their sacks up, he puts their money back in the bag, and he gives them supplies for the trip, so they don't have to dip into what they came to purchase. So he gives them above and beyond and sends them on their way. Remember, this is his family. We would do this for our family. So verse 26, they laded their asses with the corn and departed thence. That means they left there. And as one of them opened his sack to give his ass provender in the inn, he espied his money, for behold, it was in his sack's mouth. I don't know how far they had traveled, but somewhere on the way they stopped to feed the animals, and he notices the money there. Verse 28, he said to his brothers, my money is restored, and lo, it's even in my sack. And their heart failed them, and they were afraid, saying one to another, what is this God hath done to us? See, now they're afraid they're going to be accused of stealing, and they feel like God's doing this. How else would this happen? God's paying us back for everything we've done. I mean, that's the way they interpreted that. Verse 29. They came to Jacob their father in the land of Canaan, and told him all that befell unto them, saying, the man who is the Lord of the land spoke roughly to us, and took us for spies of the country. And we said to him, we are true men, we are not spies. We be 12 brethren, sons of our father. One is not, that's Joseph. And the youngest is this day with our father in the land of Canaan, there's Benjamin. And the man, the Lord of the country, said to us, hereby shall I know that you're true men. Leave one of your brethren here with me, and take food for the famine of your households, and be gone. Now, this is just recounting what we already know. That's why we're moving so quickly. He took Simeon and arrested him. He gave them food for their families. Simeon's going to be all right. He's getting 3 squares a day and a cot, and three hots and a cot, they call it. Verse 34, and bring your youngest brother unto me, then shall I know that you're not spies, but that you're true men. So will I deliver your brother, and you shall traffic in the land. In other words, as soon as you prove you're not spies, I'll give you a pass to come back and forth as needed. But first you're going to prove yourselves, and the way you're going to do that is by showing me your brother. There's a couple of different reasons Joseph may have done this. One of them is his concern for Benjamin. Remember that the favorite wife was Rachel. Rachel died having Benjamin. The favorite son was Joseph because he was the eldest. After Joseph is gone, Joseph can only imagine he was not there for 20 some odd years. At least 20, 21 years now have passed. We know that because of the 13 years in captivity, the 7 years of the famine, and now however long from the, 7 years of plenty, we're into the 7 years of famine, somewhere in there. So you get your 20 years when the famine starts, at least a year into it before people start really hurting for stuff. Maybe 2 or 3 years into it, we don't know. But there's been at least 21 years past. Maybe 22 or 23. He does not know what Benjamin's life's been like. He doesn't know if he's been beat up and spit upon and mistreated and slapped around or what. I mean, all he knows is what he endured growing up. He has no idea. So I think he really wanted to see Benjamin, number one, make sure he's still alive. Me boys ain't lying to me. He's still alive, number one. Number two, he's been well treated. He didn't grow up like I grew up. He's being taken care of. So he wants to see Benjamin. That's what all this is about. He wants to see his father too. We'll come back to that. So verse 35, and it came to pass, as they emptied their sacks, this is after they got home, that behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when both they and their father saw the bundles of money, they were afraid. Because they left with all that money and they come home with it and they got food. And they're afraid they're going to be called thieves. They don't know how this happened. As far as they know, it was a miracle. They have no idea how this happened. Verse 36, and Jacob their father said to them, me have you bereaved of my children. Joseph is not and Simeon is not. Here's what he just said. It's y'all's fault. He's blaming them for the loss of Joseph. Now, I don't think he knew what they had done. Because remember, they came home with a coat of colors covered in blood. And they said, isn't this Joseph's? We think something happened to him. But he blamed them, like a lot of parents do today, for the loss of that son. Because the last people to see him alive was his brothers. So no matter what happened to him, he didn't know what happened. He just knows that the last time he saw his son, he sent him to check on his brothers. And they come back with his coat. So he blames them. He has for years. He's harboring this in his heart. Now he's blaming them for Simeon. You left Simeon there in a prison. So it's your fault. I've lost 2 of my children. So that's what he's blaming them for. And he says it that way. He says, you have bereaved me of my children. Joseph is not. Simeon is not. And you will take Benjamin away. All of these things are against me. Remember, they come home and say, Daddy, we can't go back for more food unless we take Benjamin. The man said to us, we have to take Benjamin when we go back, or we'll never see Simeon again. So he's saying, look, you're trying to cost me 3 children, Joseph, Benjamin, and Simeon. And he says, all these things are against me. God must hate me. And on top of all that, we look like thieves because we came home with our money. Do you see how this thing's kind of snowballing into an issue? Okay, watch this. Verse 37. This is so stupid. Remember, Reuben's not much of a leader. He hasn't been most of his life. He's the oldest. He should have been the ringleader, but he wasn't. For them that don't know, he had an affair with his father's wife, and he's just not been a good leader. He's kind of wishy-washy. So he's done some good things. Remember, he was the one begging him not to hurt Joseph, and he was going to sneak back and turn him loose. He wasn't strong enough to say to his brothers, I'm going to release him. Y'all ain't going to do this. He wasn't strong enough to do that. But yet he was going to sneak behind him and let him out of that hole. And God worked it out different. So Reuben is not the strongest character person around, but he is the eldest. Reuben spoke to his father and said, slay my 2 sons if I bring him not to thee. Deliver him into my hand, and I will bring him to thee again. Here's what he said. Daddy, trust me. Let me take Benjamin. I'll make sure he gets back. I'll make sure Simeon gets back. And if I don't, kill my 2 sons. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. Grandpa's already lost Joseph. Now Simeon's locked up. And this dummy says, well, Daddy, just kill your grandbabies if I don't bring him back. Now, does that make any sense? Who in the world, what granddad would say, okay, I'll take you up on that. Just go ahead and take Benjamin with you. I trust you. And if you don't come back, I'll just kill your sons. What sense does this make? It doesn't, does it? This kind of shows you the head that Reuben had on his shoulders. He's just trying, I get what he's doing, because you meet these people. I swear to God, you can trust me. I swear on my mama's grave. I swear. People swear on all kinds of stupid stuff. It's usually those that are swearing a mile that you can't trust. And that's the reason they say all that. They're trying to convince you that they're trustworthy, and you know good and well they're not. Listen, if a man's yes ain't good enough, don't deal with him. If his no ain't good enough, don't deal with him. Anybody's got to promise you the moon and stars. And look, I know it's 2021. I get it. Almost. Yeah, I'm like Joe Biden. You don't know what year it is. I realize it's late 2020, almost 2021. But when I was growing up, you could shake somebody's hand. You could shake somebody's hand and look them in the eye, and that was good enough. You didn't have to swear up and down and promise them the world and hand over half the farm just to do a little business. So anyhow, this was Reuben's take on it. I'll give you my sons if I don't bring Benjamin back. Well, it's understandable Jacob knows better than that. He said, oh, Lord, no, I ain't doing that. Verse 38, he said, my son shall not go down with you, for thy brother is dead, and he's left alone. If mischief befall him by the way in the which you go, then you shall bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave. He said, look, if anything happens, even if they don't take him, if he just dies on the way, if a wild animal takes him, I mean, anything could happen. You could get robbed, anything could happen. I'm not sending him with you. No, I'd just rather hold on to what I got than lose anything more. Now, there's a point I'm getting to. There's something you guys need to see. Jacob's holding on too tight. And we do this too. Sometimes there's something we're holding on to so tight. We won't let God have it. We think we got to control it. We've got to keep it in our control. And the problem is, control is an illusion. You just think you're in control. I watch these guys on motorcycles. It happens nearly every time I get on the interstate. I know I'm not the only one that's seen this. I'll be riding along about the speed limit, maybe a little over, and all of a sudden, yoom! Somebody come flying by me so fast it's like I was sitting still. Weaving in and out of traffic like they got a death wish. Please tell me you've seen that. I'm not the only one who's seen that. Apparently there's more than one of these idiots, because I see it everywhere I go. And I don't even get on the interstate that much, but inevitably, during motorcycle season, there's always somebody, yoom! Now here's the problem. When you're riding along on that thing and it's got great handling, it's got a big motor, whoo, you're just moving, and it just feels so great. Look, I ride a motorcycle sometimes. I understand. I've never done that, but I understand. It's fun to goose it a little bit and go. But control is an illusion. You just think you're controlling that thing. I can't tell you how many times the Lord has reminded me I'm in His hands. And except for His divine intervention, I wouldn't be standing here today. So we need to be careful what we try to hold on to and try to control. It's like that song, Jesus Take the Wheel. You know what? Jesus should have already had it. You don't even know where you're going most of the time. So, just saying. You know, if you gave Him the wheel, let Him have the wheel, you wouldn't have to sing songs like that. But anyhow, we're going to get there. You'll see where I'm going with that. So, verse 43, the famine was sore in the land. Now, it had already been that way, but it's getting worse. It came to pass when they had eaten up the corn which they had brought out of Egypt, their father said to them, go again, buy us a little food. They've eaten everything they had brought back from Egypt. They're out of food again. The animals are out of food again. They're hungry. They don't know what to do. I read somewhere that the number one motivator of human activity in the world is hunger. Hunger makes you do things you wouldn't normally do. Hunger makes you eat things you wouldn't normally eat. Okay? You don't believe that? Watch Fear Factor. Them idiots eat, man, I'm telling you. Is that even a show anymore? That's them men will eat cockroaches and everything else to get hungry enough. But anyhow, the point is, he's changing his tune. He said, all right, we got to go get some food. Verse 3, Judah spoke to him. Now, Judah was a sure enough leader. Judah is the line of Christ. Judah is the fourth oldest, but the most mature of the bunch. The one Daddy can trust. Okay? Judah spoke to Daddy. He said, listen, the man told us, he solemnly protested unto us, saying, you shall not see my face except your brother be with you. If thou wilt send our brother with us, we will go down and buy thee food. But if thou wilt not send him, we will not go down. For the man said to us, you shall not see my face except your brother be with you. Here is what Judah said. Daddy, look, you know I'll do anything you ask me to do. I'm not going down there without Benjamin. The guy's already told us what would happen. Number one, he won't help us. Number two, we won't get Simeon back. It's pointless to go unless we're going to follow the man's orders. So either we're going to go like we told him we'd do, or we're not going. End of story. Verse 6. Israel said, wherefore dealt ye so ill with me, as to tell the man whether ye had yet a brother? Now here's what he said. He didn't say yes, he didn't say no. He said, why did you do me this way? Why would you tell the man you had another brother? Why did you open your big mouth? Listen, I've had that conversation with every one of my kids at some point. You're laughing because you have too. If you've got kids, at some point, look, kids will say the darndest thing, right? And they'll tell stuff they're supposed to know that you don't know they know. I'm going to brag on Ezzy for just a quick minute. Do we have time for that? We'll make time for that. There's a trivia game back there that we bought some years ago just for fun. My wife used to complain. She said, Chad, you know the Bible, and I'm your wife. People expect me to know the Bible. She said, but I didn't raise up like you raised up, and I always feel dumb in these conversations. People ask me a question. I don't know. She said, I want to learn more about the Bible. Well, my wife's not a big reader. So I bought her videos to watch. I got her that trivia game. I mean, she likes to do stuff that teaches her alternative ways. Not everybody can just sit down and read like I read. That's fine. So I got that trivia game for my wife and kids. Unbeknownst to me, that little girl, growing up, she's 5 now, just listening to the questions and answers on those trivia cards, she's learned the answers. And when they were playing that game last week, she didn't win, but she didn't lose either. Out of Treston, who's almost 14, Dalen, who's 10, Paxton, who's 9, the 5-year-old was neck and neck with the other kids on answers right and wrong, playing the trivia game I got back there, that Bible trivia game. You know what that tells me? They hear and understand better than you think they do. So I'm so proud. I'm so proud of my kids. And I threw that in there. That had nothing to do with this. I just want to throw that in there, so thank you for that. But Israel says, why'd you do me this way? Why'd you even tell him you had a brother? And Judah says, or they said, verse 7, the man asked us straightly of our state and of our kindred, saying, is your father yet alive? Have you yet another brother? And we told him, according to the tenor of these words. Could we certainly know that he would say, bring your brother down? Now that's an old English way of saying, how could we know he'd do this? We were just being honest. Why should honesty get us in trouble? We were trying to tell the man the truth. We had no idea he was going to request to see our brother. We didn't do this on purpose, Dad. We're sorry, but we didn't do this on purpose. But this is the situation. He's got to go, or we can't go. You can moan about it, you can gripe about it, you can question us about it, you can blame us. But the end of the matter is this. You got to let him go, or we're not going. And that's the bottom line. That's the point. Verse 8. Judah said unto Israel his father, send the lad with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and thou, and also our little ones. Now Judah's got more sense than Reuben. He didn't say, trust me, Dad, send him with me, and if he don't come back, you can kill my kids. What a dumb thing to say. Well, Judah doesn't do that. Judah says, look, Dad, let him go with me, and I'll take care of him myself. And by doing so, we'll live, you'll live, we'll all come out of this thing okay. All right? But we're going to have to do this way, or there's no chance. We're all going to starve. So that's the point that he makes. And I'm going somewhere with this. We're almost done. Some of y'all look like you're falling asleep on me. Don't do that. Makes a point to say also our little ones. They had kids. All right? Verse 9. I will be surety for him. Of my hand shalt thou require him. If I bring him not unto thee and set him before thee, then let me bear the blame forever. Rather than offering up a bunch of grandkids to die, he said, look, I'll give you my word. Let me be the one to blame. Not all my brothers, just me. Let me be his insurance. Verse 10, for except we had lingered, surely now we had returned this second time. What does that mean? Somebody? I'm testing y'all. What does that verse mean?
They stayed a long time, but now we gotta go back the second time.
He's saying if we hadn't waited till now to go, we'd have been back by now.
Yeah.
So I'll read it again and I'll explain it. Except we had lingered, surely now we'd return the second time. I mean, if we hadn't have been goofing off all this time, we'd already gone and got back. We'd already had the food here. Now here we are hungry. He's got to wait for us to travel and travel back and starve half to death while you're waiting on us. I mean, it's a pretty terrible situation. He waited till they ran smooth out. And I honestly don't know how they're going to stay alive until he gets back. I mean, this is his only hope. Let me paint the picture here. Sometimes God will let you get down, plumb down to your last thing that you've got left to hope in. And I mean, it'll look pretty bleak. I have lived through this. I've seen it myself. Not because he wants to hurt you, because he's trying to teach you to depend on him. And we're hard-headed. Sometimes we have to have this lesson multiple times in our life. And I don't care if you're 20 or 80. Sometimes you've got to learn a lesson about depending on God. Not on your bank account, not on your 401k, not on your insurance, but depending upon the Lord Jesus Christ, trusting in him. Sometimes the only way you're going to do that is for him to take a few things away and wake you up. He's done it to me. And he doesn't want to do it. He wants you to understand my trust, my faith, my hope, my all is in him and him alone. Because everything else we got, it's not as sure as you think it is. Do you think your insurance company is completely without fail? Two problems with insurance. First of all, half the time they try to wiggle out of everything. I mean, they try to cut through all kinds of bureaucracy just to get something done they're supposed to do anyway, number one. Number two, if the stock market crashes, it affects them too. In the Great Depression, I don't think they had insurance, but if they had it, wouldn't have done them any good. It wouldn't have been worth the paper it was written on. It's by the grace of God that even the dollar bill has any value, because they took it off the gold standard. So you can't trust in anything. Mexico used to trust in their peso. How'd that work out for them? I mean, I'm not trying to be funny. I'm telling you, it's okay to have money. It's okay to have savings. I'm not knocking that. It's okay to have insurance. It's okay to have these things. They had none of those things back then. So the point is, whatever else you have, make sure God is who you truly trust in. And then all the rest of that's fine. But you start trusting a little bit too much in man's devices, and I promise you, God will teach you a lesson. One that you need to learn. We all need to learn. Well, this is what happens. He doesn't trust his son to go off. But they're about to starve to death because he is being stubborn. He said, I'm not going to do it. Like a little 3-year-old. Not going to do it. Nope, not going to do it. Not going to turn him loose. Well, eventually, he has to do something. They're out of food. Okay? And it's not just Jacob here. Jacob's old. If he dies from starvation, so what? But all them kids are hungry too. Have you ever had a kid come up, look at you and say, I'm hungry? You ever looked in the refrigerator? There ain't 2 or 3 things in there, and there ain't a whole lot you can put together to feed them. Until you've lived that life, you have no idea what this is like. And I've had to look at a child before. I've had to go without eating before so one of my kids could eat. It hadn't happened a lot, but it's happened a time or two. And it was because of me. Because of my stupidity and stubbornness. Well, that's what Jacob's doing here. He's letting them kids go hungry right alongside him. Verse 11, their father Israel said to them, if it must be so now, do this. Take of the best fruits in the land in your vessels and carry down the manna present. A little balm, a little honey, spices, myrrh, nuts, and almonds. Meaning, we ain't got much, but whatever we got, take the best we've got left. Now you're talking. Now you're talking about serving God. This is the way you ought to act. Hey, we ain't got much. Remember the widow's mite? She didn't have much, but what she had, she threw in that plate. They ain't got a lot, but he says, hey, from whatever we got left, take the manna gift. Verse 12, and take double the money. See, they didn't have a money problem, they had a food problem. They had plenty of money. Take double the money they took the first time, plus a double amount to make up for going again. He said, take double money in your hand. The money that was brought again in the mouth of your sacks, carry it again in your hand. Peradventure, it was an oversight. Maybe they just overlooked it. That's what he's saying. Maybe it was an accident. Verse 13, take also your brother. That means Benjamin. He's letting go. Praise God, he's letting go. Take your brother, arise, and go again to the man. And watch this, verse 14, we'll fix the close. And God Almighty give you mercy before the man, that he may send away your other brother and Benjamin. In other words, I pray God will have mercy and send home Simeon and Benjamin. If I be bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. And I have a note here from Esther 4:16 where Esther said something very similar. I'm going to go and I'm going to do this. And if I die, I die. Sometimes that's the attitude you got to have. I'm going to send everything I got. I'm going to give all I got. I'm just going to let it go. Send Benjamin, take an offering, give what we got, and I'm going to put it in God's hands, say, Lord, it's on you. And maybe my children will come home. You know what's neat about this story? Not only do the 10 boys come home, they bring with them Simeon, Benjamin, and, well, they don't come home, but he gets Joseph back too. Sometimes if you'll just give to God, he'll outgive what you give him. He'll put more back into your hand than you ever expected to receive. He does in this story. We're not going to get there tonight, but he does in this story. He gives back everything the man sacrificed and gives back more. But I think what he needed him to do, all he needed Jacob to do is the same thing he's asking us to do. Let it go. Have a little faith. Trust God. It's all his. You say, I ain't got but $1,000 all together and all my stuff. You mean God's got $1,000. It's all his. Everything you have, including the breath you're breathing right now, it's God's. And he just needs you to understand it. He don't mind you having it. He just wants you to understand whose it is. And the sooner we understand that, the faster he can bless us and build us and grow us. That's the way it works. Jacob's about to figure that out. I think most of us already know that, but hey, it was in the lesson. So God wanted somebody to hear that. Any questions, comments, thoughts, anything for the Lord?